All right. Well, hello, hello. We have Julie here today. I'm super excited to chat with. Julie is a graduate of the LoYo Method coaching program. Hello, Julie.
Hi, how are you?
I am great. I am great. We're going to have a conversation. We're going to talk about you, which is super exciting. Lots to talk about. We were having a little convo before in terms of, what some of Julie's successes were, and we're going to get there. But why don't you just tell us a little bit about you for starters?
Sure. Okay, I am a wife, mom of three youngish children. My oldest is 12, my youngest is 6, and I am a high school math teacher. I have been going through ups and downs of trying to lose weight for years and years and years and years. And I am ready, I found a program that I just have come to and has been a great resource for me.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely get into that. Julie hails from the state of Minnesota, right?
Minnesota, yep, northern Minnesota.
Yeah. We have a lot of people from Minnesota. I don't know why. I don't live anywhere near Minnesota, but yeah, there are lots of people from Minnesota. So, soaking up the good weather while you can during
Yep.
these. So let's kind of talk about you and your experience, your history. You came into this program in March, graduated in June, July, ish. And you just mentioned like years and years and years of, kind of struggle around weight and whatnot and dieting and things of that nature. So tell us a little bit more about kind of where you were, right? Like where you were, the things that were most difficult for you, those biggest challenges for yourself.
Okay. Growing up, I always saw my family, my mom and my sisters, kind of struggling with weight, and so that always kind of put thought process in my mind that I needed to also be thinking about my weight. And I have gone through trying all sorts of different methods, going through intermittent fasting. I did a lot of the calorie counting, the calorie deficiency, writing down everything I ate, trying to do all those quick diet fixes, things like the cabbage soup diet and all those things. I would, go back and forth on them, and they just weren't sustainable. I would lose some weight through them, and then once I stopped or tried to go back to my regular life, I would bounce back, and I'd actually be worse off than I was. I'd be heavier than I was. I'd be more sluggish. It just would, it made me feel, the more self-doubt. My self-esteem got shot. They didn't work for me. I didn't want to count calories. I've never been a journaler, so writing down everything I ate didn't work. I could do it for a couple of days, and then it just didn't continue on. So, that just made me feel like I was a failure. And I just kept finding these quick things that I would try and fail at. And I always got to a point where they didn't work. I didn't want to do them. I wanted to have the freedom to eat whatever I wanted and know that I could, and that it was okay for me, and get to that point where my mentality wasn't shot, and I could have that self-esteem back.
Yeah, I think that's really telling of so many women in this space, who have been on this roller coaster ride for years or decades even. I mean, I struggled for 2 decades. It's really real stuff in terms of doing things that are short-term, quick fixes that may or may not result in weight loss, but then it stops. And then we gain the weight back. And And then we repeat that cycle over and over and over again. So it's like, how can you do that for the rest of your life and constantly be on this sort of struggle bus, or sort of better analogy, this hamster wheel, right? It's like around and around we go, right? Or roller coaster ride, because it's up and a down and it's up and a down. I remember one of the things that you spoke about, especially because you're a teacher. So for the teachers out there, God bless you all. You are amazing people who do great work. And I know that's a real high stress job. So tell me a little bit about your stress, or your stress before. I mean, stress is always going to be here, right? But like, tell me what those things were in terms of your stress, like, and what the stress was doing for you in terms of food, behaviors, that sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah. I teach high school math. And so I have a lot of students that the group of students I typically work with are the students who have always struggled with math. And so they don't always want to be there. Typically they fight that. And so it's a lot of stress of trying to meet them where they're at, with also trying to keep pushing them. And so beyond just doing, the daily job of trying to teach, I had a lot of, the stress with the behaviors and stuff with that. And so that really would bring me down. And as a teacher, I'm always in front of the students, and I really struggled with how they were perceiving me as well. And I felt I felt embarrassed to be up in front of them, not because of my teaching ability, but because of how I looked and how I felt like my self-worth was. And so I really struggled with that, on top of the stress of teaching them and helping them get where they need to be, helping them find their success. And so I really struggled with myself and putting myself out there. And and with all of these students, in the high school, I see a bunch of students and they rotate every hour. And so I'm constantly having to move, grab the next lesson, get the next stuff, make sure that I'm staying on top of all the grading and, talking with them and their families. And so I felt like I was constantly being run around. And, when it came time to sit down for lunch, I would rarely just sit down for lunch. I would scarf my food down and then I would run and do all these other things. And so I didn't really take time for myself during the day. And I mean, and that continued on at home, because I'd bring stuff home and then I wouldn't really be taking time for myself or my family. But excuse me, I never really gave myself the time to be intentional about who I am, what I was eating, and slowing down and actually taking care of myself. So I really had to work on taking time for myself. So before starting this program, it was just kind of a race to the finish every day, and just, get in what I could. If I would be feeling a little sluggish, I'd, grab a snack here and there, and it typically wasn't a healthy one. It was something quick, like some candy or a really high sugared, granola bar or something like that, that I would tell myself was healthy, but it really wasn't, because it was caked in sugar and chocolate and all those things. And so I would just have to, grab those to kind of get myself some energy, because I would quickly, like throughout the day, I would have those dips because I wasn't giving myself the right foods.
How are you managing that stress? What'd you do? What did you used to do?
Well, I would just eat through the stress. I would come home, I would just snack. If I was frustrated, I would find something to eat. I would always center everything around food. Food was supposed to be my my helper for that. And I thought that it was, that's what was there for me. It was the constant. I always had access to food. So when things were good, there was food. When things were bad, there was food. When things were stressful, there was food. I would always have that. I know I would also, when classes were stressful or struggling, I would motivate them with food. And so then I would bring some treats in, some snacks in. I know one of my big things mentally too, I really wanted to have kind of make connections with kids. So I thought, well, if I brought some food in, I could connect with them. They would see me not as this bad, tough teacher, but as this, nice person who's trying to take care of them. But then that food was always there for me as well. And so then, yes, I think they appreciated it, but it really wasn't doing me any favors. And so I think I needed to, we talked about that, and we talked about how just getting rid of the food from my room is what I needed to do for me.
So let's fast forward to March and tell excuse me, tell us like a little bit about what stood out about working with the LoYo Wellness team, myself included, and inside the LoYo Method coaching program. What stood out for you that was different from all of these other things that you have done before and allowed you to take that leap of faith for yourself?
Yeah. The big thing was that this was not just about food. It wasn't about, what I could or couldn't eat. It was there are some good things about the food in here, but what is best for food for your body and stuff. But it's not just focused on food. It's about that mentality shift and self-care, which was a huge one because I wasn't really doing any self-care. It's about having that support right along with you. It's having you, Jessica, there to kind of, talk through the highs and lows, good, bads. When I think I'm having a really bad day and you're there, I appreciate when you're telling me it's really not, you didn't make bad choices, you're doing fine. And forgive yourself if you think you did something wrong and move on, instead of when, in other programs, I felt like if I like ate that brownie, I messed up, I failed again. Where here it's about enjoying that brownie, having it, enjoying it, and having one and moving on. And so it's really about just having that support too. Those weekly coaching calls have really been a huge help. And not just when I am the one talking with you, but hearing the other ladies as well, knowing that we're going through the same thing. So many times I'm there thinking, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm right there with you. And so knowing I'm not alone in that and working through it as a group and having the support, knowing that I can count on you whenever I need it. It really helped because I didn't feel like, one thing I did that wasn't the best choice. It's not a failure. I wasn't a failure because I did that.
Yes, I could not agree more with that statement for sure. Tell us a little bit about what results you're proud of. Where are you at now?
Okay, so in the program, I lost 9 pounds, 12 inches, which was really exciting. I'm sure that I am doing just as well. I feel great. I'm feeling good.
Let's just be clear, that was effective May 20th, and we're talking July 20th. So we don't even know where you're at this point, but
right.
that was during the course of the time that you were with us for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm curious because we were talking about this before, but letting go of that scale as a real tool and a daily measurement is something we work on a lot. So it's not surprising that you actually don't have the current number because we really try to let go of it. But go ahead. Sorry, I totally interrupted you.
No, that's okay. Because I was going to say I've really have been doing better with not focusing on my weight. I do better on I've been more focused on how I feel, and taking each day and as I go through it, kind of basing it on how is this making me feel? How is this food making me feel? How did I, what I ate yesterday, was it a good thing? Am I feeling okay? But more about the way I'm feeling rather than the way the scale's telling me I should be feeling. Because that just, no matter what, it wasn't good. Even when the weight was going down, I still was focused on too much on that and not on me. And so it's been, by me putting it aside, I've been able to really focus on myself. And I've gained self-esteem because I am feeling better about myself. I'm making better choices for my family, making better, food choices, and, helping the family make those choices too. Subconsciously, when I'm making choices too, for example, we've been, when we have meals, we leave the food out in the kitchen, we dish up there, and then we go sit down at the table, so that I'm not constantly looking at the food and saying, oh, I'll just have another bite, or I'll have another one, or not even thinking about it. I know for a long time I would have another serving of whatever it was. And then as I was finishing up, I was like, why did I do that? I didn't need it. I didn't want it. I didn't, so it wasn't even occurring to me. And now by having it in a different room, I have to make that conscious decision that I want more. And so I'm teaching my family as well to think about, do you want more, or were you just having it too because it was right there? So eating intentionally, teaching my family how to eat intentionally, and eating foods that are better for us. Those are some of the things I have gained as a part of this. So it's not just about losing, the weight, the inches and stuff. It's about gaining some really great things.
How's the stress eating?
Uh, so much better. One of the big things too is that I am making better choices of what foods I bring into the house. And so if I, if I bring a bag of chips in, then I know that I brought a bag of chips in. There was a reason behind it. Maybe we were having friends over, or we were having, a specific meal with it. And so I know that it's there and I have it for that reason. So I'm not going in and digging for it. I don't actually feel the need to be going into the kitchen or the pantry and just constantly eating anymore. I have been working on, doing other things. I've gotten into yoga and really enjoyed doing yoga, and some of getting outside. I've been able, it's been smoky here for quite a while too, and so that's really been tough to get outside. But when it's not smoky and when it's not miserably hot outside, I've really enjoyed getting outside and actually spending time being outside with the kids, playing with them, and riding bike, teaching the youngest to ride her bike, instead of just sitting in the house and focusing on the bad things or what's not going well, and having that self-doubt. I haven't had that as much now. It'll come here and there, but then I will recognize it, I'll honor it and say, okay, that's what we did, but let's find something else. So
I love that. I love that. It's so much of awareness and giving yourself grace and recognizing and not fighting and belittling and berating ourselves through life's challenges, because nobody's perfect and no one's lives are perfect. And so when they're not perfect, what benefit does it give us if we self-attack? Right. And I think that's a really nice shift that you've had. It's a huge shift that you've had, especially the self-care. And I'm actually curious because I'm sure that there are women who are like, okay, but I'm so busy and I'm such a people pleaser and all I do is focus on my family. There's no way I would feel way too guilty implementing self-care in my life. Like I just do everything for everyone else. That's just it's not realistic. So you have 3 children, you have 3 young children under 12. You are a full-time high school teacher. How did you, and this was a big one for you, like how did you implement self-care and prioritize you Like, prioritize your health, prioritize your self-worth, prioritize, your happiness when your plate was so full.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that helped was my husband and I sat down, and this was in among the talk of joining this program, but we sat down together and we talked about what I needed and what I could do, and so he's been very supportive of helping me find time. And most of the time it was after the kids went to bed, and so when I would be bringing schoolwork home and working on it, I instead shifted to keeping the work at school and then doing work on myself during that time. And so I've been learning to separate the teacher and me, and having those two as two different people. Sometimes I still have to bring work home, but I try to, prioritize it at school and be more focused at school, so that I can get that done and I don't need to bring it home. And so bringing it home, or working on myself was typically done when the kids went to bed. Now, there were times when I, wanted to do something, needed some alone time or quiet time. I was talking with my kids, and my oldest, my 12-year-old, he was really great about it. When I said, "Mommy needs a little bit of time, please give mommy some time," or he was fine with that. He was good with that. My 6-year-old wasn't as good about that. So my husband really had to step in and help kind of navigate her away so I could take some time for me.
How did you overcome any feelings of guilt? Because that's probably the other thing that sparks a question if someone's watching, is like, but I couldn't do that. Like, I would feel so guilty. I'm doing such a disservice to my children. I can't put them second, right? Like, how do you do that knowing you're actually not putting them second?
Right.
You're also putting yourself first, just like
Yeah.
they're first. How did you kind of structure that for yourself?
So for me, I think it started with kind of well, let me just see how it would, like, one day would be. And so it was just, I'm going to do this once. And, so I think it was more of, you guys go play. And so, like, I got them distracted on something they really wanted to do. And then I did it. I took, quiet time. I did some yoga during that time, and I really felt like how good I was. So then when I came back with them, I was better. I was a better mom. I was more energetic. And so then I could show up better. And so then it became more of, I'm not putting them second. Like you said, I'm putting myself first so I can be even better for them. And so it was, I didn't have to, stress about leaving them behind or any of that, because I knew that when I came back, the yoga, I would do like a 15-20 minute yoga. So it wasn't super, super long, but it was enough for me to just focus on just myself and have some quiet time, that I did just felt so much better. So then I could show up more for them and be there with them. And I think they really appreciate that. And they saw how, mommy needed some time, or my oldest, he understood when, when I would get stressed out, that, that I just needed some time to relax and just come back. And so I think he was a great big part too, and he would help get the other two distracted. But the guilt just wasn't there like I thought it would be, because I saw how much better off I was for them.
I love that. I love that. It's such a simple concept and such a, well-known discussion, right? It's like, put your oxygen mask on first so you can take care of your kids. And it's so cliche at this point, but like, it's still so relevant, and it's such a simple shift if we can then go ahead and just implement, right? And remove that feeling of guilt. I'm curious if we were to go back to before you started this program also, because there's so much fear and skepticism, especially in the online community, especially in the general health and wellness field, to, well, gosh, self-doubt. Like, I've failed so many times. I'm scared. Like, will this work for me? And work for me has so many different connotations, of course. I know that was one of the feelings that you had, and I'm just curious, like, what were those hesitations and nerves and fears? Were you nervous to invest in yourself? And how did you really overcome that fear of not getting a return on your investment, so to speak?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the biggest fears I did have was, like you said, investing in this, and investing in myself. I did have a huge fear of failure because I failed on everything else that I've tried, and it was, I don't want to fail again. And I know when you reached out to me through Facebook, we went back and forth there and we talked about it. You really brought some good ideas and things to my mind about talking to my husband, and why haven't I talked to my husband, and like digging into that fear. And when I did talk with my husband, he and I both, we were talking about how we really do, both he and I, but we were focusing on me at the time. We need to really do make investments in ourselves, because if we don't, then we will not change. And so it was seeing that uh, there is more to this than just food. So that's more than I had done before. I had the support through you and the Facebook group, and I had them to lean on. I didn't, I had to make the um, the conscious effort to put in the time, and that to me was a big thing too, because if I'm going to put in the money, I need to put in the time. And so then that was kind of a accountability for me too, is that if spending money on myself, I need to actually put that in and invest in me. I need to not just hope that by putting the money in, it'll magically change, because I know it wouldn't. And so, talking through how we need to prioritize ourselves, and I haven't been, and I really needed to take some time for me. And, just knowing that there was the support where I could, ask any questions, dumb or not dumb, it didn't matter. It was good, it was good to have someone to bounce things off of. It was really nice to be able to have support along in that investment. And that was a huge part of it, is I wasn't doing it alone. And so I had the entire group plus you, along with my family there to support me. And so that's what made the investment worth it, is that I had others along the way. I wasn't doing it alone.
I love that. Okay, last question. What would you tell somebody in your shoes, in your prior shoes?
I would say take care of yourself. It is really important to take care of yourself. Your mentality, your mental health and your physical health are both just as important, and making sure that you find ways to take care of yourself. And this program really does a great job of helping you find what works for you, what works for your body food wise, what works for you, for your choices as you're going through just life in general, what works. This program really helps you do that, and ask questions and jump in and be a participant in this whole journey is really huge.
Amazing. Julie, thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you so much for being vulnerable and open and honest with your conversation and your story. So appreciate you. Congratulations on all of your wins and successes. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
And we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Bye.